Hello again, ambassadors and strategic advisors. Thanks for participating in part 3 of our activity, virtual engagement for April 2020. As you all know, this is replacing our early April and late April meetings that we had planned in person amid the COVID crisis. And I wanted to thank you again for participating in thought leadership about our future, how we respond to the current crisis, but how do we also respond to other vision elements, goals that were articulated throughout our planning process thus far, and really setting us up for success as a community over the next 5, 10, and 20 years. This portion of the activity is going to focus on place types, and I'll explain what that is in just a moment. But before we do, wanted to talk about our consulting team for anyone who jumped right into part 3. I'm with MIG, we're a planning and design firm. We've been selected to help the city develop the comprehensive plan, along with a great team that includes Clarion, City Explained, Economic and Planning Systems, Nelson Nygaard, Pride Public Relations, and Urbane Environments. And we cover land use planning, urban design, community engagement, public relations, as well as policy, modeling of different trade-offs and scenarios, market analysis and thinking about fiscal impacts and housing and economic development and transportation. My name is Jay Renkins. I'm a principal with MIG and also our firm-wide director of planning and design services, and really excited to be presenting to you today and being part of this overall process. Our objectives for this activity are broken into a couple parts here. So this particular aspect is focusing on developing a greater understanding of the place types, and then linking those place types to the vision, goals, and framework policies, and beginning to develop supporting policies, projects, and programs to support and promote the place types. Our process began in winter 2018 with the existing conditions and looking at our past, and looking at the implications of that past, using the equity atlas, thinking about our future, looking at different growth factors that are impacting the community, in kind of this 2019-2020 period, but also looking forward and looking at whether or not our existing policies are supporting the type of growth that we'd like to see. Phase 1 also included community vision and values, that teed up phase 2, where we looked at trade-offs of growth to inform a future growth strategy and a preliminary policy framework. And now our work in phase 3 is focusing on policies and strategies. That will lead into the drafting of the comprehensive plan for delivery in fall of this year yet, and an adoption in 2021. Most likely spring of 2021, which will really be the jumping off point for implementation of the plan, which will include mapping of those place types and integration with the Unified Development Ordinance, which a key piece is the zoning ordinance, but there's a lot of other important aspects as well. Our place type palette is made up of 10 place types, and those include a variety that we really began to think about categorizing in terms of work, live, and play. And this is important because the place types are really the building blocks of a complete community, and any one place type doesn't give one person or one family everything that they need. We need aspects of work place types, live place types, and play place types to make a complete neighborhood and ultimately a complete community. Rest of this session, we're going to focus on the place types. So those include the neighborhood centers, community activity centers, and the regional activity centers. And centers include a mix of uses, including some live and work uses. But they also include entertainment, dining, and other entertainment aspects. Let's start with the neighborhood center. The goal of the neighborhood center is to provide places that have a pedestrian-friendly focal point of neighborhood activity, where nearby residents can access daily shopping and needs and services within a 5 to 10 minute walk or a short drive from home. This can take the form of a small commercial center that's really oriented to the neighborhood and is highly walkable. It could also be just an intersection or a small main street within a neighborhood, or maybe between neighborhoods. Land uses typically include retail, restaurants, personal services, institutional, multifamily, and offices. And some types of auto-oriented uses, well designed to support walkability, could be located within the neighborhood center, particularly on its edges. And the character is low-rise, commercial, residential, civic, and institutional, and mixed-use buildings in that highly walkable environment or pedestrian-oriented environment. The photos here represent some typical neighborhood center characteristics. You can see it ranges from older development to newer development, sometimes a mix of the two, really supporting our small local businesses and catering to our local communities. The next step up in the place types is the community activity center. The goal of these is low-rise commercial residential buildings. And then the land uses include retail, restaurant, entertainment, and personal services. And some multifamily and office may also be located in this place type. In transit station areas, there's a high concentration of multifamily or office typically within the place type. And we wanted to call out that these do have a greater mix of uses with a higher level of intensity than the neighborhood center. Here's some photo examples of the community activity centers. You can begin to see these are taller typically, more development packed into a smaller area, a lot more variety within the different uses, and typically a stronger office and residential component like we talked about than say a neighborhood center might have. And then we get to our highest intensity centers, which are regional activity centers. These are our largest activity centers. Uptown and Center City is probably the regional center, activity center, but we do have other regional activity centers around Charlotte. The intention for these, or goal, is that they provide major employment locations and cultural destinations. And it's not just for the local residents. These tend to draw people from a large section of town or the entire Charlotte region. Uses include vertically mixed, meaning that there's different uses in the same building, kind of stacked upon one another. And they include office, multifamily, retail, restaurant, and entertainment, as well as personal services and institutional. And then the character includes urban form, mid to high-rise commercial and residential, and as we said, civic institutional buildings in this pedestrian-oriented, aka walkable, and transit-friendly environment, meaning that there's a lot of people nearby that could support bus service or maybe light rail or streetcar. And then regional activity centers in a transit station area are typically more intensely developed than regional activity centers in other locations. So here's some photo examples of those regional activity centers. You can see a couple of photos from Uptown, again with our highest intensity regional centers. But regional centers can also have 5, 6, 7, 8-story buildings in a large concentration and still create that regional draw, still have the intensity and mix of uses that create employment centers, create large live, work, and play opportunities through that play lens. So for this part of the activity, you will refer to the place type summary sheets. We have one for each type of center. And we would encourage you to look at these before and while participating in the rest of the activity. But I wanted to give you a quick overview of what is included within those place type summary sheets. So using the Community Activity Center place type summary as an example, up in the upper right, you're going to see that it includes a land use mix. Then looking at the characteristics or parameters associated with the Community Activity Center, looking at the goal, land use, character, and transportation. And eventually we'll have, there's currently a placeholder, but a diagrammatic illustration of what the place type characteristics. So you're now ready for the rest of the activity, which is going to focus on the place types. And we'd like to understand or help you understand those place types a little bit better, as well as the application of those place types. And then we really want to gather ideas from you about the projects, policies, and programs that will best support and facilitate the place types that represent play, including the neighborhood center, the community activity center, and the regional activity center.